So the first step, Paul had to be separated. That's why all these people of God, it was like the mop water, the bowl with the mop water. They had to be separated so they could be used of God. The Holy Spirit said, separate Barnabas and Saul for the purposes that I've called them to. And this would change the world. Began with separation. And notice the words, separate, purpose, called. Purpose, you have a purpose with God. You have a calling from God. Separation, it goes together. It is often the missing key. Barnabas and Saul had to separate themselves and to be used of God. So if you're going to fulfill the calling, you've got a calling on your life. There's purposes of God that are there for your life. It's kind of like seeds that are there by God, and the only way they can come to fruition, it begins here by separation. In some way, you're going to have to separate yourself in some way. And I'll tell you exactly what from in a moment. But look at the alternative. If Abraham never separated, we'd never know him as Abraham. He wouldn't be the father of the faithful, much less the Jewish people. If Moses hadn't separated from Egypt, he wouldn't have been Moses the deliverer. If the prophets hadn't separated as God asked, they wouldn't be the prophets. If Peter hadn't separated from his boat, he never would have been the Peter we know. None of them would have fulfilled their calling without that step. What does that tell you about you? This act of separation is what separates those who fulfill their calling and those who don't, or those who fulfill it a little bit and those who do it fully. Now, first, before I say what it's meaning for you, what is it not saying? It's not saying, like some people, for you to separate from fellowship, no. And it's not saying to separate from somebody because you're angry with them. That's not God. Or you're judging them, or separating them separating from their people in the Lord who feel that they are the spiritually enlightened ones. We are the ones who are the more spiritual spirit people, and they judge everyone else. And that's a pride. That's spiritual pride. There's nothing going to happen there. But there is a holy separation for you. Why is it necessary? You've got a calling. Think about it. You're being called. In order to be called, you're called to something. But you can't be called to something if you're not called from something. I can't go here to if I didn't leave there from. Okay? Can't happen. So just as important as the to is the from. God says to Israel, I've called you from the nations that you would be to me a kingdom of priests. From and to. The call of the high priest. The high priest is taken from men to minister to God. So with you. So with you. You are a chosen people. You are called to God. You are called from something. And that from part is the separation crucial. If you don't get the from part, you won't get the to part. If you don't separate from that, you won't get to that. And a lot of people, because they never really separate, they never get to, because they're not going anywhere. See, if God is calling you, and He is, it means you are called to His purposes. They're new because they're His. But you can't accomplish the new purposes without separating from the old purposes. Think about it. Everything. You look at the book of Exodus and Leviticus, all about the holy things of God. And it's all about its holy objects, holy vessels, holy people, holy tabernacle. The holy meant this thing was separated. It's not going to be used for anything else. Once it's used for the temple, you have an object. It's not to be used for anything else. So it had to be separated from common use to be used there. You know, the tabernacle itself, how did it become the tabernacle? People took what they had, their jewelry, their mirrors, their clothing. They gave it to God, and these were everyday things. But once it was given to God, it was separated from them, and it became holy to God. Same with you. You're called to be a holy vessel. Not common, not mundane, not everyday, holy. The word itself, kodesh, try holy, kodesh, or kadosh, or the different versions, or kadesh means to make holy, means it's separated from the old purposes. Think about this verse. In Timothy, Paul says in 2 Timothy, If anyone cleanses himself from these things, these unclean, base things, he will become a vessel of honor, useful to the master, prepared for every good work. Now imagine that. You've got china, or you've got something, you got some nice, plates and all that. You could display it. But let's say you have a bowl that's filled with mop water. You're not going to display it. You're not going to even use it. You're not going to use it for food. So let's say you are the bowl of mop water, and you want to be lifted up. You want to be on there. You want to be used. You can't be used until you get that mop water out. You understand? So it's not a thing that well, I'll get into this. So if you get that out, then you can be used for every good thing. Notice here what's first. It doesn't say be used and then cleanse yourself. It says cleanse yourself first. Then you will be ready, prepared, and used by God. You see, it's like that. So the first step, Paul had to be separated. That's why all these people of God, it was like the mop water, the bowl with the mop water. They had to be separated so they could be used of God. Even Israel itself, God had to take Israel out of Egypt and then separate them from Egypt so he could use them as his holy people. It all goes together. Now, it's not that you'll be perfect, and it's not that if you have any sin, you're not going to be used of God, because then nobody would be used of God. Okay, that's to encourage you. But inasmuch as you give yourself to sin, inasmuch as you join yourself, it will hinder you to that degree from fulfilling the high calling God has. Inasmuch as you free yourself, you separate, you put it away, inasmuch you will be released to that higher calling. See, it's not just that you're saved from sin once. Every day we need him. Every day there are people who preach that you are, but that's just not true. Every day we need Jesus. He will save his people from sin. Every day we're to be cleansed more and more and more and more, but that will be lifted up. You'll be lifted up more and more if you do. Amen. You're not supposed to say the same. Your calling and your destiny is the will of God. In the will of God. So if you want to fulfill your calling and destiny, you have to be more and more in the will of God, which means you have to be more and more out of that which is not the will of God. Because that which is not the will of God will separate you from that which is the will of God. That's the way it goes. Jonah could not fulfill his calling while he was running away from God. He couldn't do both. Only when he said, okay, I go, he could fulfill it. So sin, whatever that thing is in your life, that sin, you already know it. And it's not that we're perfect. You might fall, you might mess up, but you get up. But you got to make a resolution that I want that out of my life. Because I want that. I don't want anything to hinder that God has for me. But it's not only sin. It can be something else. It can be separating also from other things. In other words, I'll get another category. That which is distracting you. That which is distracting you from God's highest. That which you're so wrapped up, like Martha, wrapped up, that you're not going to fulfill your calling because you're so wrapped up, and you got to separate from something that may not be, we'll say if it's not sin, but it may be mundane. It may be something that's not the highest. It might be good, but it's not the best. Hi, I'm Jonathan Cahn, and I hope you were blessed with the video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Feel free to share your reactions with your comments and how you were blessed, and share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.